The leaks just keep happening, and honestly, it's hard to believe this has been the situation with Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense. You can't help but think he's the least capable member of this administration, though he's certainly not the only one who can't seem to keep things private. Now, J.D. Vance is bringing to light his thoughts on that ridiculous text message leak from Pete. And let me tell you, it's a real revelation, disclosing just how little Pete seemed to care about his actions. These recent texts from Vance add to the long list of scandals surrounding Hegseth, and it's looking like this could be the end for him. Before I dive deeper into those leaked messages and what they imply about Hegseth's increasing troubles, I just want to say, if you could hit the like button for this video and maybe consider subscribing if you're enjoying what we do here at Signal Feed, it really helps us out. Now let's take a moment to look at Rachel Maddow's breakdown of the charges piling up against Pete Hegseth, which truly make a case for why this should be his last stand. She's been dying to discuss this, especially since the details have just exploded into the public eye. When you step back and think about it, it's pretty disturbing. I mean, why are we potentially going to war with Venezuela? It doesn't seem like the administration has even bothered to come up with a coherent explanation for Trump's declaration that we're at war with them. It almost feels like they just wanted to use the Alien Enemies Act to deport people illegally, people who shouldn't even be facing deportation. They figured this act required a war, so all of a sudden they declared one and then scrambled to fabricate a reason for it. Right now, they're saying it's all to combat drug trafficking into the United States. Ironically, just today, a man who was convicted of the largest drug trafficking operation in U.S. history was released from prison thanks to none other than Donald Trump, the former president of Honduras. It's quite something to realize just how twisted this situation has become. If you take a step back and really look at it, you have to wonder what on earth we're even doing over there. Killing people on boats without board motors, boats that aren't even aimed at the United States, let alone confirmed to be carrying drugs, seems like a pretty questionable approach. Even if they did have drugs and were somehow capable of reaching our shores, why aren't we just intercepting them like the Coast Guard does? We could seize the drugs, put those individuals on trial, and trace the drugs back to where they came from instead of creating this chaotic mess.
But there's not a story that I've more desperately wanted to talk to you about since this Post story just blew this unbelievable fact out into public view, and I wonder your thoughts on all of it.
I am disturbed by this, I think, as everybody is. I was taking a step back from this, Nicole. I don't understand why we're going to war with Venezuela. And I'm not sure the administration has even bothered to try to come up with anything even internally coherent in terms of explaining why Trump has proclaimed that we are at war with Venezuela. My sense is that they wanted to use the Alien Enemies Act to illegally arrest and deport people from this country that actually weren't subject to deportation. They decided the Alien Enemies Act was a way to do that. They then realized the Alien Enemies Act required a war, so then they declared a war. Then they needed a reason for the war, so then they reverse engineered some sort of reason for the war. Ostensibly right now, the reason for the war.
It honestly feels like they've stumbled into a bizarre and unlawful situation where the only real benefit they're getting is some flashy footage for Fox News and TikTok. They seem to be enjoying that part, and now they've left the commander of Southern Command along with every senior officer and service member in a tough position where they might be held accountable for murder or war crimes. Who knows how long those statutes of limitations run? I'm honestly more concerned about the good folks caught up in this nightmare than the bad guys who got us here. This is a catastrophe from Admiral Bradley on down. I can't see how Pete Hegseth can possibly survive as Secretary of Defense after this. Resignation seems inevitable, especially when the Republicans dig into it. This whole debacle spells disaster for the current generation in the United States military, which honestly feels more like a tragedy than a farce. It's even more shocking that in a group filled with heavyweights from Donald Trump's administration, Pete Hegseth stands out as the most incompetent and criminal. That's no small feat given the stiff competition. From the start, I've said that bringing a Fox News cabinet into the mix was bound to lead to Fox News-style results. And here we are faced with a level of unseriousness that's hard to overlook. So let's talk about Pete Hegseth and J.D. Vance, two guys who really don't seem to get the seriousness of their jobs. Hegseth has this track record of messing things up repeatedly, while Vance seems to think his role as vice president is just about making ridiculous tweets and poking fun at our government. It's honestly hard to believe they both collided in this recent drama. The whole situation surfaced when J.D. Vance was caught being casual about sensitive information leaks. He seemed to make light of the uproar following Defense Secretary Hegseth's revelation of details about a strike in Yemen on a messaging app called Signal. After the scandal broke, Vance jumped back into the group chat, which probably wasn't the best move. The Defense Department's Inspector General released an unclassified report detailing Hegseth's Signal use, and it wasn't pretty. This report, which was 84 pages long, came out after The Atlantic revealed that their chief editor, Jeffrey Goldberg, had been mistakenly added to a chat with key Trump administration officials. Following that, they published a transcript of the messages exchanged, while the IG report included a partial transcript of what went down in that Signal group after the leak. In that transcript, we see that Vance popped back into the group chat amid all the chaos, even though it seemed like a ghost town there. Goldberg had left the chat on March 16th, right after the strikes, and then The Atlantic dropped their first report about everything on March 24th. The next day, on March 25th, Vance decided to ask, "This chat's kind of dead. Anything going on?" It was a pretty careless comment to make considering the serious questions being raised about whether top officials were sharing classified info on an unauthorized app. The responses to Vance's message? Well, there weren't any, which is somewhat telling. No one took him seriously. After his little inquiry, the next thing that happened was pretty amusing. Someone changed their profile to Mr. M. Smith, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessem adjusted his disappearing message time to 8 hours. CIA Director John Ratcliffe even simplified his name to just John. Oh, and the IG report did mention that the partial transcript they provided on March 27th didn't feature a significant part of Hegseth's chats, which is just another layer to this whole fiasco. So, it turns out there's this report from the Department of Defense that really puts Pete Hegseth in a bad light. He was using his personal phone to share sensitive military details over an unapproved and insecure messaging app, which is a huge no-no. Apparently, he sent information about planned military actions, including how many troops were involved and when the strikes were set to happen. And here's the kicker. Some of those messages vanished before they could be preserved, which just shows how careless he was. The report makes it clear he broke the rules by using personal devices for official business. Now, after this report from Atlantic came out, J.D. Vance thought it would be a good idea to crack a joke about the whole situation. It's honestly hard to believe he said that out loud, especially considering how Hegseth put our service members at risk. The folks in the Trump administration were scrambling too, trying to change their names in the chat like that would save them from the fallout. It's like they think any of that will keep more info from surfacing. They really do come off as professional buffoons. And here's the real punchline. Nobody even bothered to respond to J.D. Vance. It's pretty clear no one thinks much of him. He's just a loser in this mix. While it might not be funny when you think about the consequences, it's definitely revealing how little concern these people have for our service members' safety. They seem to treat this whole scandal like a joke. But the truth is coming out, and there's no covering it up. This whole mess is also tied into a much larger scheme involving Donald Trump and his connections to Jeffrey Epstein, which Lawrence O'Donnell did a great job unpacking all year. Trump and his attorney general have insisted there's nothing noteworthy in the Epstein files, claiming there's no reason to release the Justice Department and FBI's investigative details. But with all this chaos unfolding, it feels like a lot more is about to be uncovered. Today, the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee decided to share some really striking photographs from Epstein Island. They're doing this to keep things transparent, which is a refreshing change from how Donald Trump and his legal team operated. The Democrats want everyone to be in the loop about what they're uncovering from the Epstein estate and through various subpoenas to financial institutions. They've already gotten some financial records from J.P. Morgan and Deutsche Bank, and after they take a good look at everything, there's a chance they'll release more materials. In the meantime, it's interesting to note how Donald Trump will likely resort to his usual tactics, threatening Venezuela or immigrants just to divert attention away from the distressing stories about his close friend, Jeffrey Epstein. That includes the horrifying accounts of a 15-year-old girl who fought for her life to escape and the traumatic experiences of an 11-year-old who was brought to the island. To dive deeper into this topic, we have Democratic Congressman Roa from California, a member of the House Oversight Committee, joining us.
Donald Trump and his Attorney General have spent the year telling people there is nothing to see in the Epstein files, nothing. There is no reason to release the Justice Department and the FBI's investigative file on Jeffrey Epstein and his criminal co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell. The Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released the photographs of Epstein Island today. They said they released the photographs in the interest of transparency. Unlike Donald Trump and his Attorney General and his FBI director, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee want people to know what they are finding and what they are seeing when material is turned over to them from the Epstein estate and through other subpoenas they have served on financial institutions. The committee has received financial records from J.P. Morgan and Deutsche Bank, and the Democrats on the committee might be releasing some of that material after they have thoroughly examined it. And when they do, Donald Trump will once again.
Thanks for being here. The photographs you're releasing, what's the significance behind them? Well, they're really chilling. Just looking at the picture of that dentist chair surrounded by eerie masks makes you think about the horrors young girls may have faced there. We got these photos from the Epstein estate, initially tipped off by Bradley Edwards on your show. We feel it's important to release them to pressure the Justice Department because we know there are many more out there from survivors. We're asking for all the photographs and files to be released while protecting victim identities, of course, within 16 days. And since there's a law requiring that these files be released, what's the holdup? Well, technically they have until the 16-day mark, but Attorney General Pam Bondi hasn't agreed to meet with Thomas Massie, myself, Senator Miller, and Senator Mouski. We've been trying to get a meeting to understand what their process is for getting this information out. It's pretty surprising that they wouldn't even sit down with the bill's authors from the House or the co-sponsors in the Senate to chat about the release. Now, if they fail to follow the law, the career officials at the Justice Department could be facing some serious penalties. But as you know, this administration has a habit of dodging the law. It's going to take some ongoing watchfulness to make sure those files actually see the light of day. These folks need to be held accountable. And trust me, we're going to keep discussing that right here every single day. If you're on board with our efforts, you can always hit that subscribe button or give this video a thumbs up. And if you're still with me at the end, go ahead and drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep resisting, everyone. Let's not allow them to silence us. Until next time, take care.